show. I have Beverly Vickers. She is the Director of Sales and Marketing for Canada with Regent Seven Seas. So first of all, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And as you can see from behind me, um, I've got here a picture. Actually, this is a personal picture of mine from our November cruise. And
Mhm.
this one is really meaningful because on the one side is the Regent Navigator, and that was the very first ship that my husband and I sailed on back in 2012 for our wedding anniversary. We splurged and did a Regent cruise, and then the beautiful Seven Seas Splendor that we
Ah,
were on in, yes, so we had two Regent ships side by side in port,
sisters.
which was, it's a pretty rare occurrence with
It
Regent
is, it
having a
is.
small fleet, but
And
yeah,
isn't it
I think
funny that, although our ships are known to be smaller,
I
yet
know
the Splendor looks so big beside
it looks
beside the Navigator.
massive
If you
beside
had another big ship beside our ship, you'd realize how small all of ours are. But
Exactly,
interesting, isn't it?
exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
and it was really fun to see the crew going back and forth because of course they know each other, and seeing all
yeah,
the passengers wave to each other because it really is a bit of a family environment, whether you're a
huge
passenger or a
family. Yep,
crew, because it's such a small, there's only six ships now.
right.
And yeah, and it was actually a really special thing to have both sister ships side by side
Yeah,
in port, and
wonderful,
this was in Turkey.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that word family that you use. Oh, first of all, thank you for having me. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and I know what a big advocate you are for Regent, and we certainly appreciate that. But yeah, the word family is one that we use a lot within our company and on our ships, not just internally to describe how we feel working for Regent, but indeed it's a word that our guests use to describe their experience on Regent, how they feel like family when they come on board, seeing people that they know and have traveled with so often. And there's a warmth and a familiarity about our product that people don't always realize. I think that's probably one of the wonderful surprises that people have when they first come to Regent is to discover that feeling that they don't expect that keeps people coming back time and time again. So it's a wonderful thing.
And one of the things that we found, and we weren't sure when we first booked our very first, I remember way back to our very first cruise, um, going on board to a luxury cruise. I mean, of course, we had a lot of expectations. Back in the day in 2012, Facebook and the internet weren't really a big thing as they are now. I think a lot of cruisers are a little more prepared with Facebook groups and doing research, but getting on board and being on board a small ship, you really get to know other passengers. You really get to know the crew, and I remember the very first time we got on board, our suite wasn't available quite yet, so we sat by the pool and just enjoyed a drink, and we're talking with the waiter there, and we didn't really think too much of it. And the next day we'd done a shore excursion. We'd kind of come back early afternoon, so we went back to the pool, sat down. Don't you know that waiter came up to us? He had a tray with the drinks, and he said, "Mr. and Mrs. King, I've got the drinks that you ordered yesterday. Now, don't feel you have to have them because I'm happy to get you whatever you want, but just in case you want the same thing." And I thought, how does he know our name? And how did he remember our drinks? Like it was absolutely one of those moments. And I talk about this with my clients now. It's one of those moments where it really took me aback. And I think that's what there's just this opportunity on smaller ships to have those moments naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're talking small. There are different perceptions of what small is. Regent kind of fits into the medium of the small ship category, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
We have our baby ship that you have on the screen there at 490 guests. and our largest being 750. I guess what's interesting is, and actually the one on the right behind you is holds 700 guests, but you can see how much space we allocate because that ship is still considered very small if you were to look at her beside others. So definitely traveling with a few hundred people instead of a few thousand makes a huge difference to your experience. And it does allow our crew and our staff to become very focused on you. And that's what creates that experience of being spoiled, which is really what we're all about, really. I mean, word luxury means different things to different people. And I think if we sort of dig into that word a little deeper, it's about a feeling, it's about being spoiled, it's about being stress free, having a lot of your decisions taken off you so you don't have to worry, having everything included so that you don't have to worry about what you're spending. That's another thing. And of course having that warmth, which I think is lovely. I know you and I were chatting earlier about the word luxury and how there's some people who are afraid of it because I think it conjures up these ideas of something being perhaps a little inaccessible or a little stuffy or cliquey or formal, and yet none of those words apply to this wonderful product. So it's warm, friendly. Yes, it may cost a little more at first glance than some of the other cruise experiences that your clients may have had, but you and I both know that when you do the math and you add up what you might spend on other cruise lines, when they come at you in increments, bits and dribs and drabs, is that on Regent you're just going to pay up front, so it's done. And I think a lot of our guests, once they realize that, I mean, it's kind of like they could have had a V8 moment, when they realize all along, oh my gosh, I could have been doing this for the past 10 years.
And you
And
definitely don't want to
yeah,
get my husband, we had that moment. Not this past summer, last summer we took a Mediterranean cruise, just the standard
mm,
Barcelona to Rome, everybody does them. Some great ports in there. And we decided to try a cruise line that we hadn't cruised with before, which is great. And we were coming out of COVID, so we decided to get a suite. And this is one of the cruise lines that has that suite section of the cruise, or of the cruise ship, which we really loved because we thought it's a bigger cruise ship. This, reduces the number of people that we're with, and it's also suite life, so a little bit of luxury, which we love. And at the end of the day, we paid for additional Wi-Fi because the Wi-Fi wasn't working enough for me to do what I needed to do. We paid for, I think there was 5 out of 7 nights we paid for additional dining. We paid for drinks. We paid for shore excursions. It kept going and going and going, which was fine. And we knew that going into it. But when we got home and I actually spent some time looking at the invoice,
mhm,
and I think it bears noting, we flew on airline points. So our flights were free, if you want to. So without a flight, when I looked at the price, it was literally $500 less than had we sailed with Regent, and that would have included business class flights.
yeah,
And frankly, the food that we've experienced on Regent is much more elevated, and the service,
yeah,
even in the suite area,
yeah.
was not what
The
we've come to
lines, yeah.
experience on Regent. And so
Mm.
he he was kind of mad. We had a great vacation, but he came back and I looked at it, and then we did the math and we thought, wow, had we realized, we would have just gone with the experience that we've come to love.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a real life. And I actually keep that invoice because it's really interesting. It adds up, and it adds up pretty quickly if you're
Well,
paying
as an
more.
advisor, I think, as you said, you have to have experiences, and sometimes you have to check yourself. You have your own beliefs and your experience. It's like, well, is that really the case? So let me go back and try. So I think once in a while we have guests that might get distracted, and there's a new shiny object out there, a new shiny cruise line, and then they think, oh, why did I do that? So I mean, there's some wonderful products out there, but I think it's the consistency of ours. It's a consistent message. It's the most inclusive product out there. It's delivered at such a high quality level,
Mhm.
um, in this wonderful warm environment at this great value, and it doesn't change. So I think people have come to know and love that and expect it, that they can sail anywhere in the world, from, you know, 7 night Alaska, Caribbean, Mediterranean to world cruises at 154 nights, depending on where they are in their cruising career, I suppose, if you put it, and know
Yeah.
that they're still going to get that consistency and lack of stress. So it's an extraordinary product. I mean, I've worked for several cruise lines in my time. I've worked on board ships, and um, I must say, once you come to Regent, you don't want to go anywhere else. It's true. I mean, it's true. So it's
It should come with a little warning when you book,
yeah, a little warning.
just be
You
careful.
might get hooked. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, I see it with some of my guests. I've got guests that have 100+ nights on board, and we've talked about different itineraries for them, and I've offered, some land things, some other variations. And and you see it because you see my bookings every single time. They're back to, oh no, we found a region, we found another region, and they're booking out now. We've got them and through 2026, and I'm sure when 2027 comes in, they'll
Won't
be
be long.
looking to see what region itinerary it is. It's really hard when you experience that. And I would argue, you said that, we're consistent, we don't change. I would argue that, because the prettiest ship I've ever seen, the picture you have behind you, I
Mm,
would argue that with each, I mean, I was on Splendor, which is the next newest ship, and it's gorgeous. It's unbelievable. The spaces in there, and it goes beyond the artwork. It's just stunningly beautiful. And
that's special.
even just a meaningless, I'm one of those people who gets up at a ridiculous time and goes to the gym. And even, one of the most expensive pieces of art is underneath the stairs as you're going up to the gym. It's like, it's crazy when
Yeah.
you actually, you start
Now
looking in.
floating art galleries really aren't they? They really are. So they are something.
Yeah, yeah. And so and you've been on the Grandeur. I haven't yet, and I'm going to say
Mhm.
yet because it's definitely,
Mhm.
but I think with each new ship, I think Regent actually elevates even more.
You raise the bar. Yeah, that's interesting. And I guess when I say consistency, I think it's more consistency of the experience and product delivery. Certainly, there are some tweaks in the ships, but even this new breed of ship, there's some consistency in the design,
Mm, yeah.
familiarity in the basic layout, some minor tweaks, and the decor changes a little bit. But I think it's that consistency in the product delivery and the inclusiveness and that really does get you. But I think also when you have smaller ships, there's an expectation that you're going to be lacking something. When you have clients that
Mm,
move from a more mainstream deluxe ship or sort of 2 to 4,000 passenger ship, that they want something better and different, but they also want to have some fun and they want to have shows, and they don't always realize that they can still get that. Basically, we've just scaled things down a bit. You've still got a full service casino, you've got the
yeah,
spas, you've got the gym. We have a
yeah,
two-story show lounge on every ship, even the baby. And we
yeah,
have production shows as well as guest artists and enrichment and dancing and bingo and all the things that make a cruise fun. Just because you're high quality doesn't mean that you can't have fun. In fact, we have a lot of one of the most fun things. I'll just tell you about one of our little secrets. Is we have something called the neighborhood block party, which you've probably
yes,
experienced,
yes.
which is kind of an icebreaker. Most cruise lines will have a formal captain's cocktail party early in the cruise. Well, what we opt to do is 6 o'clock in the evening, the cruise director comes across the PA and says, okay, everybody open your suite door at 6 o'clock, come out in the corridor with an empty glass. And lo and behold, out there in the corridor in your neighborhood, you find people roaming around, you have waiters passing hors d'oeuvres and drinks, so your neighborhood becomes your corridor around your suites becomes your neighborhood, and you get to meet people. And because it happens early in the cruise, it is that icebreaker. And then the cruise director and the captain, they run every deck to meet everybody. So it's one of those little legendary things that Regent has introduced that people just look forward to. And
And
it's
it's
fun.
so nice to meet your neighbors. And I found, and we did get to participate. We didn't have one on this cruise, or maybe we did and we missed it. I don't know. But on our earlier ones, we did get to participate on that. And it's so much easier after then you see your neighbor in the hallway or you're sharing an elevator. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really does create a sense of community. And I think it breaks the ice to start friendships.
Sure it does, absolutely it does. So and then once you get going on your shore excursions, you start to meet people and, which is another one of the inclusions that people are just astounded by is, knowing that typically when you come back off a cruise, you've got a huge bill because
Yeah.
you're on the ship to see the ports of call. And of course, with Regent, we have an extensive selection of free excursions. I mean, you could be on a Mediterranean cruise and have, 60 or 70 tours included. Of course, you're not going to be able to do all of them, but there's a choice. And that's what's
Yeah.
kind of amazing is that they range from your introductory panoramic motor coach tours to more in-depth, unique experiences in ports. So even if you've been somewhere before, you may find something, or you will find something different to do. And I think having that inclusion is really what really shocks people, astounds people initially. Then they start to look and say, "Wow, this is so great! It's just all done for you." So it's wonderful.
And I
And
think one of
booking
the
early is important, as you said before. Booking them early
Yeah,
is
and one of the things that surprised me, and again, like the word luxury, the word like whatever's packed in there, right?
mm,
The word luxury, I initially thought older people. I initially thought, stuffy, serious, I thought, okay, well, all of the excursions are going to be the learning, the history, I don't know what I expected, but it's funny on Regent ships, um, I've been parasailing, I've done zip lining, I've been airboating. I've had some of the most fun adventure excursions from a Regent ship that I have from other brands. And I've noticed, and in fact, we noticed it this past year more than ever, the variety of ages. We saw kids on board, which there's not, I mean, Regent doesn't isn't known for family cruising and for having kids on board, and yet there are. And it's
Well, we
really
have a lot of grandparents who want to travel in the style they
right,
like, so they will bring
right.
their families along. So,
And it's
you know,
crazy to see little ones on board and see the crew and other people just fawning over them because it's such a treat to have them on board.
yeah,
Um, and to see multi-generational families, but also to see, honeymooners, younger people. It's no longer, I think the way of the your grandmother's cruise,
mhm.
the bow ties and long dresses and the formal. I was going to use Titanic, but that's probably a
No,
bad
no, that's not a
example,
good
but
one, but
the different levels of class and all of that old fashioned, that's
yeah.
not what cruising is anymore.
Well, I think it depends. I mean, there are definitely certain brands out there that have a more formal personality, and I know that's where your job comes in to put people on the right one. But
Mhm.
the beauty of Regent is that we have that upscale environment with the quality, but it's not an uptight feeling. So I like to say
Yes.
it's upscale, but not uptight. So you have everything that's there that's going to give you quality. And definitely for people who appreciate the finer things in life. There's no doubt. And although we do get some families and the odd younger honeymooner, we are pretty much essentially a 50 plus product. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
say we're not. But again, there are people now in their 40s who have decided that it's time to treat themselves. Once you have a milestone, typically
Yeah.
it's when you
Yeah.
might start to look at this kind of experience as a treat. So And people do spend a little more on themselves if it's, 15th wedding anniversary, 20th, 25th, special birthday, pre-retirement, retirement. So this is when we tend to see people coming to Regent if their grandparents haven't introduced them to it younger when they were younger.
Yeah.
Um, so it really the length of the cruise does dictate the age group. But we have
Mhm.
a lot of cruises that are between, 7 to 14 nights long, which during which time we get a lot of people in their 50s who are still working. So then there's the world cruises, which by that point people tend to be retired. And
And
that's actually the best deal, believe it or not, a world cruise. That's a whole other discussion.
and it's so funny because I actually just did a video on that this morning on the best value that you could get, and it happened to be one of the 2025 Regent cruises that I worked it out per night, and it was, in fact, my husband kind of looked at me and was like, "Are we
Are
just
we
hold off
again?
on
Just
that." That's the drawback, right? That's the drawback in this is you
yeah,
find all these things and it's hard not to book.
yeah.
So you and I have both had the luxury of being aboard the ships and actually experiencing it. And so for new thinking, if I, putting myself in the shoes of a new passenger,
Mhm.
what are, do you have sort of a pro tip or something that you, for someone who's never booked Regent before, I know I've got a couple of things that I didn't know about, but I do now that I share with clients, but what's your big.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, number one is that you never need as many clothes as you think. That's probably true of every cruise or vacation. However, we have added complimentary valet laundry service on our ship. So just remember that we have that now that is new so that you don't have to pack as many things as you used to because you can go home with a suitcase full of clean laundry instead of dirty laundry. Or if you're doing a cruise as part of a larger vacation experience, which many people do, especially if they're going to the exotics or Europe, they might do a 7 to 10 night voyage and then go off somewhere else. So I think make sure that you're utilizing that service because it's there for you. It really is. So it's most definitely. And I think the other thing when it comes to the excursions, once you're on board the ship, you may encounter a situation where the particular tour you wanted is waitlisted, and you feel a bit frustrated because it's something you wanted to do. What happens is a lot of our guests tend to overextend themselves. Everybody gets so excited when the excursions open up that they book everything. And then about halfway through the cruise, they start to think, oh, I don't think I can get up for 8 o'clock tomorrow. So there's some changing that happens. Or even a tour in the afternoon, they may decide they don't want to do it. They'd rather stay on the ship. So don't get too upset if you encounter wait lists because chances are something will clear before you travel or even on the ship. I've had many opportunities where I've been able to get on pretty much everything I wanted just when you're there. So that's probably my tip is to not get too frustrated, but keep checking back and there. So those are two good tips for me. And the other thing is, I guess, yeah, try to lose 10 pounds before you go because the food is excellent.
Well, my tip, I've got two things the one we knew before, but the one when we were just on Splendor, as we were touring the ship and getting our bearings, when we stumbled on the spa, as we do sometimes, and they told us about that they have a embarkation day special because of course people are coming and going and the spa does tend to be pretty quiet that day. And
Mhm.
so we were able, on top of a 60-minute massage, we were able to get 20 minutes additional for free. But
Woohoo! That's
only
amazing.
that, well, yeah, so it was a great deal in terms of just the dollar per minute, but more importantly, what a spectacular way to start your cruise.
Oh yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
just chilling in the afternoon before sail away, before
Yeah.
you're able to have dinner. It's just a great reminder. And I just kept thinking, how blessed are we to be able to, we're here, we're having a massage, this is a great vacation. And it was a spectacular way to start a spectacular vacation. And the other thing, losing the 10 pounds, is, and I didn't know this. This is a new tip that I've learned is I didn't realize how flexible the Regent waiters and the kitchen staff are with food. I mean, it blew my mind. I said to a waiter, I can't decide between this and this. And he said, well, have both. And I thought, well, I'm not going to have two entrees. He said, no, 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 no. I'll just make you an appetizer. We'll make you an appetizer size. You can have both and you can pick, do you want this side or do you want that side? Do you want this vegetables? You can literally customize your food
Mhm.
and enjoy all of the things that, I mean, it all, when you read the menu, I want it all. It all sounds incredible. And then when it comes to your plate, yeah, it's spectacular.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've learned over time traveling is we have this rule. Um, if we are not if we're not going to get, particularly from a food for us is something we value. If we're not going to get food that is significantly better than we can get at home,
Hmm.
a local restaurant or whatever, why bother?
Yeah.
I want to go and I want to have great dining. I want to be wowed. I want great flavor
Want to be spoiled.
combinations.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do. I want to be spoiled. And for us, food is the thing. And for some people, it
Right.
might be the sweet, it might be the itinerary. For us, it really first and foremost becomes about food and then the other things.
Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
funny you say that because I think overall, a vacation experience, so many times over my career, I've heard people brag about the deal they got for their 7-night vacation in Cuba. And I almost kind of look at and say, well, that's really sad because you know you're not going to be as comfortable as you are at home. You know you're not going to get food as good as you eat at home. The whole point of a vacation is to be spoiled, to elevate it.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
I mean, so you should be going for the gusto. You shouldn't be looking for the least expensive and the worst. Might be the best beaches, but the worst food. You should be, as you said, elevating your experience with every possible vacation, which Regent can do for you, that's for sure. And certainly appreciate the fact that you recommend us to your clients. We just need to get more people trying it because I think there is a bit of that preconceived notion about a luxury product that
yeah.
people assume is expensive. Again, all those cliche words, which it's about value, not price and experience, right? At the end of it. So,
Yeah. And even when you actually do the math,
mm,
you look at the price, it really, when you look at what other
yeah,
companies include and what you're paying above and beyond,
yeah,
if you're the type of person who does need the decent Wi-Fi, who does like elevated dining, who does go into port and take advantage of shore excursions and those kind of things,
mm,
if you're that person, really you're not comparing apples to oranges. When all's said and done, it's a very level playing field. And
yeah.
I think that's a huge misnomer.
Yeah, it is. So, well, thank you for sharing that message because that's really all we want to do is just educate people so that when the opportunity to spoil themselves does come up, that they consider looking at Regent for that opportunity. So, I appreciate you bringing us to the forefront, and it's great that we have a special promotion with you coming up, don't we? The whole month of March. So I'm very pleased with that. So if any of your
Can
listeners,
we talk about that?
yeah, yeah, we can, absolutely.
March?
Yeah, it's coming up. In fact, also, I don't know if I told you this, we are gonna hold an actual virtual presentation, full presentation about Region with more
Fabulous.
pictures, not just us talking. That'll be on March 6th. So
Okay.
that's something that you could share with your clients as well. And of course, the special offers, bonus savings will come with bookings that are made before March 31.
So those what and refresh my memory again because it's escaping me the bonus savings
I
for
know
bookings
there's
in
there's
March.
there's quite a bit. It's basically the whole any new booking that you make with Regent during the month of March on almost all the itineraries, right through 2026. We've got everything available through 25, spring 26. you can have a reduced deposit. So instead of paying 15%, you'll get 2 people for 15 instead of 1%. And then there are some shipboard credits, $300-400 on select sailings. And on top of that, you can save anywhere from $300 to about $2,500, depending on the length of the cruise and the category that you're looking at.
Fabulous.
So it's a really nice opportunity. And of course, there's all the goodies that you get, which I know you treat your clients to as well. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah. And with those shipboard credits, you can start your cruise like a pro and get a massage.
You can go to the spa. There you
There
go.
you go. There
What
you can
else
go
would
to
you
a
want to do?
massage for free.
You can. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Okay, so last question before, for somebody who hasn't been on board, what is your favorite dish? We talk food. So what is the dish that what's the food? What is it that you absolutely
What do I love and what do I go back time and time and time again for? Oh my good. Well, there's 3 things that can I talk about 3 things?
Yeah.
And one of them seems very simple, but the poached shrimp that they have on the beautiful luncheon buffet is so delicious. They're so meaty and juicy. They make a tower of them. They're just so appetizing. So they're so fresh and delicious. So I absolutely love those. I love the mushroom soup that we serve. In fact, all our soups are amazing, but in Chartreuse, in the French restaurant, they bring this beautiful bowl with the mushrooms presented already in the bowl without the soup, and then they bring the hot soup and they pour it on the mushrooms theatrically. It's all about the presentation.
It is. I love it.
It absolutely is. And then my favorite dessert, which you're going to laugh at because it sounds silly, it's a caramel popcorn sundae, which people post all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, of all the wonderful things that we make, I just love this. It's beautiful French vanilla ice cream they make on the ship, topped with whipped cream, and then this caramel popcorn with more whipped cream and sauce on it. And it's just the most wonderful thing. So,
That's fab. And for me, I think, gosh, mine sounds very healthy. The miso cod,
yes, delicious.
love it. Absolute. And also I discovered this on our last voyage. They have the most spectacular turkey burger out on the grill by the
Yes,
pool.
yes,
It's got this spicy sauce on it that just zings it up. Not crazy burn your mouth spicy, but it just, the flavors are crazy. And it's a turkey burger. It's super healthy. You don't feel super guilty about having a burger at lunchtime. And my husband discovered the lobster macaroni and cheese, or no, the lobster nachos. Lobster
I've
nachos.
never had those. My husband has. I've always resisted, but I've heard they're pretty amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So our pro tips for food, if you're going on board a Regent ship, and write those down because they're definitely, I think they're fan favorites right across.
They are.
You'll
see on our Facebook pages, people post about them all the time. So
They do.
we have this amazing 14-layer chocolate cake that we serve in Prime 7, which is our award-winning steak and seafood house. And I suppose the chefs, every so often, they decide that they have to shake things up. I guess they get bored of making them, or they think the guests are going to want something different. So there was a time when they were threatening to take that away, and there was an upheaval, an uproar that they were considering taking away the 14-layer chocolate cake. So we managed to fight it, and it's still on there. So yeah,
but I love that passengers have this intense emotional connection with things, and it's a part of the brand. It becomes a part of the
you
brand
look forward to, isn't it?
to them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
No, that's
and actually, we have some sample menus available on the website. So if any of your clients want to take a look, you can always get those to show them. So
yeah, and I post about the food pretty regularly because for me, food it's just a really
I'm with you. I'm with you for sure. So anyway, thanks so much for giving me the chance to chat about Regent.
Thank you so much for your time. I love it.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate this.